Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then we're available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, June 7th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same models of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission? To support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate on the key issues of our Black community: Latino, lesbian, trans, student youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's begin by welcoming Elimination. He's a pansexual member of the kink and fetish community, an educator and a community leader. He was the founding president of Onyx Deep South and also represented our community at International Mr. Leather as Mr. Ramrod. Besides his charitable works, he campaigns for self-acceptance with his I Am Enough initiative. Welcome, Elimination.
Thanks, John. John?
Yeah,
John? All right. Well, let's welcome John.
Twinsies.
I had a sexy guy, then I just happened to think about you. A journalist for 28 years. He now works for several outlets, including Out South Florida as senior reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, local events directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners. He's going to as many Pride events as he can over the next 10 days. If you see him, say hi, give him a hug. Welcome, John.
Hugs. CD party of one. Your table's red.
He's just jealous.
I know. You know who gives good hugs? Elimination.
Yeah.
He does. He really does. I highly suggest you hug him. Now, let's welcome anchor Kal Gajraj. Kal is a first-generation Muslim American. He's an award-winning communications executive and diversity officer for government healthcare programs. Kal is also a professor at the Miami-Dade College School of Global Business and an advisory board member for the University of South Florida's College of Business. Welcome, Kal.
Thanks, John.
And mind your own business.
Mind my own business. Even you interviewed me before.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're up there with presidents and Oscar winners.
I sure have. And the Queen.
Superstar.
And the Queen.
Let's welcome Dr. Anchor Bobby Huen. Bobby is a certified civil and family mediator. As the founder and principal mediator at BH Conflict Resolution Services, he helps families, businesses, and individuals resolve disputes of all types. Having grown up everywhere from Hong Kong to Boston, Bobby is proud to offer a global perspective to current events. He is not at the office when he's not at the office or here at the It's Happening Out studio. Bobby enjoys gaming, Lego building, and hanging out on the famous Wilton Drive. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you, Kal. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Wednesday, June 7th.
Well, first, let's queer up gay culture. In a time of political attacks, Sunshine Cathedral brings LGBTQ plus joy with a new season of performances. Politicians are attacking the LGBTQ plus community like never before, and that's why the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts is bringing us some of the brightest and funniest LGBTQ plus entertainers in the world. For example, on Saturday, October 14th, You Can Catch Muse Duo, comprised of the award-winning guitarist Colin Holloway and the dynamic pianist-composer Luke Benedict. The guitar and piano duo brings music that is eclectic and accessible to modern audiences. On October 21st, catch top lesbian comedian Judy Gold. Judy has had stand-up specials on HBO, Comedy Central, and Logo. On November 18th, catch Sister Helen Holy and the 701 Club. It's an 18-plus show. Dallas-based comic Paul J. Williams brings his alter ego, Sister Helen Holy, to Fort Lauderdale for a one-night-only performance of his religious parody show, The 701 Club. On December 9th, it's America's new romantic singing sensation, classical crossover tenor Anthony Nunziata. Anthony is a Brooklyn-born, Nashville-based singer, songwriter, and actor, and entertainer who brings his soulful voice to classic jazz, pop standards, Italian arias, and his timeless original music. These are just some of the amazing performers that you will find in the upcoming season at Sunshine Cathedral for the Performing Arts. Find out more and get tickets at sunshinecathedral.org. Well, they have just announced the new season at Performing Arts Center here at Sunshine. Of course, as everyone knows, we're broadcasting from the Happening Out studios here on the campus of Sunshine. Approximately 24 performances starting in the fall and through the spring. So it's going to be a very jam-packed season. Lots of big names coming. We just do a sample of some of the early season performances. I've never seen Judy Gold, and so my lesbian card is withdrawn. But I'm looking forward to seeing.
You have a lesbian card?
Yes, a lesbian card. Yes, I have non-binary cards.
Ooh,
so I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to it. And one other thing for people that don't know, Sunshine's very interesting and unique because it's one of the few places in the country that has this kind of entertainment program incorporated in an LGBT environment. So you know it's safe and friendly and welcoming, and your ticket goes for good because it supports programs like the food sharing program here at Sunshine.
Yeah. I think it's magnificent to see this amount of LGBTQ plus programming in arts and entertainment. And it kind of warms my heart because I've worked for a number of years in arts and entertainment in South Florida. Florida Grand Opera, the Art Center, the Broward Center, the Peter London Global Dance Company.
Yeah, I mentioned one. You didn't even run the entire.
Al Jr. Okay, sorry.
It begins to make you wonder why he changed his job so often.
I got to keep it fresh. But it's just really nice to see this type of programming, and especially at Sunshine. So they always say, showing up to these events are, a form of advocacy as well. So protest.
Well, it's also important that we have spaces for these queer folks to go. As the legislation continues to grow, they continue to go to our spaces. And if we don't have places like Sunshine, where can our queer artists go to be seen, to be heard? Where can we show them our love? And if we don't find these spaces and we don't give them to them, we're going to fade away, and a young queer person is not going to have someone to look up to.
I'd just like to piggyback on many things, but on their last comment, and give a shout out to Sunshine Cathedral for people who are just tuning in. We're at Sunshine Cathedral right now. That Sunshine Cathedral is the Swiss Army knife of community involvement.
Right.
They're a church. They hold 12-step meetings. Okay, that's pretty normal. They have a senior sitter that's run by Al is their patron saint. It's St. Al's.
He's a model, right? He's a model.
Al.
He's a model of the.
Okay, true.
But they host us. They host youth services for such. They do so much here on this campus, and this is not a sprawling campus. It's 3 buildings, but they do so much with so little, and they do so much good for the community. So while we're on the topic, thank you, Sunshine Cathedral.
And get your tickets online.
Yep.
Well, next up, let's queer up out South Florida. Despite the political angst around Pride, let's not forget to have fun. Stonewall Pride activities are underway, and while we suddenly find ourselves wondering things like, how much drag is too much drag, we need to embrace the fun of Pride. In this week's Out South Florida, I look at the week of activities leading up to next weekend's party. Last night, Fort Lauderdale City Commission issued a proclamation acknowledging June as Pride Month. The Mr. and Miss Stonewall pageant was held at Eagle. Congrats, by the way, to Oscar Nova and Rihanna Petrone. They're both awesome. I had so much fun watching them both, and all the contestants. This afternoon in Miami, they held a Pride flag-raising ceremony. This Saturday is a parade on water as the 4th annual Floatorama sets sail along New River. If you're up in Delray Beach on Saturday, they're having their Pride Fest with an Elton John cover band. As for safety at the parade and street festival next Saturday, I sit down with Wilton Manors Police Chief Gary Blocker, and we discuss monitoring the web for threats, how security you see and don't see will be deployed. He told me, quote, I'm confident we're ready and prepared to welcome 40,000 friends along Wilton Drive, and for them to have a great time, and for them to have a safe time that day, end quote. You can read more about pre-Pride activities in Out South Florida online now and on stands tomorrow. And Al, you and I and Fay were among the people at the pageant last night, and we had a really nice time. We're going, not on this list, Oakland Park is having their Friday night party this weekend.
By the way, the mayor of Oakland Park's on the phone wanting to know why you didn't include them in your story.
Oh, Wilton Manors is my beat. Another reporter has Oakland Park.
Let's go those out. Okay, go.
But Al and I are going to be there this Friday night. We will do selfies for free, feet pics, $10.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm happy that the police are actually taking more of this into consideration. Not only to protect our community, but to also realize there are people who are bringing their children who are learning or are just identified as queer to these spaces, and they're trying to find a home. True story, I have a cousin who reached out to me from another state and says, hey, I'm coming to South Florida. I'm bringing my son to Pride. He needs to be at Pride. He's a young adolescent, but just identifying himself. And so police need to really understand that our community is so diverse and that anyone can be there. Additionally, provide safe spaces for folks to voice their opinion and don't attack them.
And recent events are not, and frankly, not encouraging. I mean, even in California, there are now, literal fights breaking out between radical groups. By the way, Sovereign Poverty Law Center, SPLC, has named Moms for Liberty as a hate group. Thank you. And
Ron DeSantis created Moms for Liberty.
yes.
Wow.
Anyways, I mean, Pride is important, more important than ever now because of Ron DeSantis' attempt to censor us, to make us crawl back into the closet. But no, sir, I've never been in the closet, never will be. I have stuff to put in the closet. I can't fit in it.
But we don't want them to weaponize. See, the thing is, for me, they often weaponize police as fearful objects. And so when you think about police, you think fear immediately. And so some cities use the police to cause people to stay home, to not want to be out. And then think about it, the numbers decrease, then that goes back to the city says, you know what, we don't need you because you don't have the numbers. Why? Because of the fear of the police.
Yeah, and a quick last note on my discussion with Chief Blocker. In the event that there is some kind of emergency, and it doesn't have to be, a violent emergency, that could be, it could be a downpour, there could be any number of things that could happen, but you can keep, and if you're wondering what's happening, their Twitter account, the Wilton Manors Police Department Twitter account, is how they will be notifying the public in general of any developing situations that start to come out. And he said that they have been working together with, since December, on security for this event. So, this isn't just something they throw together in the last few weeks, and it should be really
let me get a selfless plug in for Hotspots Magazine and Happening on Television Network. The best way for you to keep track of everything to do with Saturday, June 17th is online. Roku, Apple Television, we're broadcasting live. I sat in the meeting today on the final details for our live broadcast. The parade is going to start at 7 o'clock, but we're going on the air on the main stage at 5 p.m. And so we're going to do 2 hours before the parade begins. begins. We're going to be interviewing a lot of different people that are important to the community, politicians, etc., and so on, talking about what's going on in the world and the fun things about Stonewall. And then we'll be broadcasting the parade. There is a record number of entrants in the parade. We are very likely, this will be the first test of a parade in Florida since the drag law went into effect, etc. And so it'll be interesting. I very much imagine we'll see the largest collection of drag queens in the history of America on June 17th, which should be fun. It's going to be great for everyone. If you can't come to the parade, we encourage you to come to the parade. First off, come to Wilton Manors and to Fort Lauderdale and come to Stonewall Pride. If you can't, watch it on Roku and Apple Television. It's going to be a great celebration. It's going to kick off Pride Month and our Pride season that we're going to watch all summer.
Next, let's queer up the road to Stonewall. In 1930s Berlin, the trans community was welcomed. Then the Nazis, I try again. In 1930s Berlin, the trans community was welcome. Then the Nazis took over. In the fall of 2022, a German court heard an unusual case. It was a civil lawsuit that grew out of a feud on Twitter about whether transgender people were victims of the Holocaust. The court took expert statements from historians before finding that the historical evidence shows that trans people were indeed persecuted by the Nazi regime. In 1933, the year that Hitler took power, the police in Essen, Germany, revoked Tony Simon's permit to dress as a woman in public. Simon, who was in her mid-40s, had been living as a woman for many years. In Berlin, transgender people published several magazines and had a political club. Some glamorous trans women worked at the internationally famous El Dorado Cabaret. The sexologist Magnus Hirschfeld, who ran Berlin's Institute for Sexual Science, advocated for the rights of transgender people. The rise of Nazi Germany destroyed this relatively open environment. The Nazis shut down the magazines, the El Dorado, and Hirschfeld Institute. Most people who held certificates allowing them to present as the opposite gender, as Tony Simon did, had them revoked or watched helplessly as police refused to honor them. For a long time, the public didn't know the stories of trans people in Nazi Germany. Now, this is a little triggering for me because it kind of brings us back to today. It's often a largely group of people who often try to marginalize and erase the history of our trans siblings. And what this does is shows that not only were they affected, but they were actually living free and living their lives as if the world was theirs, openly and accepting. But it's always that small group of people who wants to come in and erase. Additionally, it makes me think about how black folks in America during the 1800s who had to walk around with papers in order for them to say they were free, in order to either go back into slavery times and or killed. And for these folks in Nazi Germany, if they didn't have that paperwork, imagine the crimes or the jail time that they commit and or murder.
Yeah, you know what the kicker is? After the Nazis were defeated, every part of the Nazi laws concerning the Nazi regime was removed, wiped, except the part about being LGBT. Being gay was criminalized as a felony in Germany until decades after the Nazis were gone. The rest of the allies continued their oppression, and our community did not get to commemorate our loss in the Holocaust and afterwards until much, much later.
I mean, it also goes to show you that we've existed for centuries, not just decades, but centuries throughout history. So it's not just a new phenomenon that, gays and lesbians and trans have just popped up in today's pop culture, but we've been here, we've been around, and we've been fighting all this time.
And we've been around forever, and we've been abused forever. Yeah. We have been one of the subcultures that are easy to single out and marginalize. Yeah, exactly. So and this just comes down to, and I don't know the full origins of the feud on Twitter or whatever, but it's clear it was started by some sort of Holocaust denier or, denying in some aspect of the Holocaust. These people are out there. The further away we get from the Holocaust, the louder their voice becomes. So please never forget.
I had an interesting conversation today in an interview with a lesbian Jewish singer. And one of the things that came up in conversation was the commercials. I know all of us have seen them about the attacks the anti-Semitic attacks that are taking place on Jewish people in America. And we had conversation about it because it's interesting in that the anti-Semitic attacks that are taking place on synagogues and the Jewish community is this phrase that you're seeing in spray paint and signs and marches by the Proud Boys, etc. Hitler was right. And they put it in quotation marks, and they sell this idea, which is very hateful and anti-Semitic, that he did the right thing. Well, our conversation focused on why isn't the LGBTQ community pouring in on that? Because when they're saying Hitler was right, that also meant killing queer people. And so as a result, we should stand with the Jewish community and saying we can never allow this to happen again. One other quick thought that I think is interesting. I can't imagine in 2015 when we got gay marriage in such a celebratory moment of saying the word fascist in America. I don't remember thinking America was fascist. I didn't like X or Y or Z. Mitt Romney ran, John McCain ran, but I didn't think about fascism. And today, and this year in 2023, in my entire life, I have never heard the word fascist and fascism used as much as I have this year. That is an indication that historically our society and our country is moving in a dangerous way. And the first way that we do it is to verbalize, we see fascism. Don't you very much imagine that that's what they were thinking in 1938 and 1939 until it was too late. They talked about it and talked about it. They didn't stop it. And then the inevitable happened.
Now, you make a great point about why we're not jumping in and protecting our Jewish friends and family, because what they're doing is they're attacking us in segments. They came after the black folks, they came after our trans siblings, they're going after women, and then they're going after our gay folks. And so each community is fighting for their own survival. Little do we all realize that the moment that we band together and make that strong fist, they attack them back or fight them back, is their strength.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right, I think, until we do that.
Yeah.
Next, let's queer up politics. Republicans walk out as drag nun Sister Roma honored at California Capitol.
In response to ceremonies on the floor of the legislature honoring what they say are an offensive group of men who dress in drag as nuns.
We're not protesting, we're not yelling and screaming, we're just praying.
If you're mocking nuns who have devoted their lives to serving the poor today, what's to stop the legislature from mocking our Jewish brothers and sisters, our Muslim brothers and sisters?
Please don't weaponize your religion and exercise your own internalized homophobia and transphobia to discriminate against my community. I think we're all doing a lot of good in the world, and I think there's room for all of us.
Well, a protest took place at the back seat of the celebration at the California Capitol Monday as lawmakers honored drag nun Sister Roma and proclaimed June LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Roma, who belongs to the San Francisco-based Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, was one of 15 guests invited by the legislature's LGBTQ+ caucus as the Assembly and Senate passed resolutions proclaiming June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Republicans in the Senate called on Senate President pro temp Tony Atkins of San Diego to revoke Roma's invitation last Thursday. A group of Catholic and evangelical Christian demonstrators gathered on the Capitol's West Steps Monday afternoon to protest Roma's recognition. In the assembly, when Roma came to the front to receive her award, Republican members left the floor and retreated to the lounge in the rear of the chamber. The remaining members clapped, whooped, and cheered, giving Roma a prolonged standing ovation. Fellow honorees Harry Litt shouted from the back of the chamber, "Love you, Roma." Speaking to the Senate, Democratic Senator Susan Talamantes Eggman of Stockton introduced the Pride resolution and noted that she identified as a proud Catholic. And we need some help with Cal's teleprompter, please. It's a great story. I've been at multiple events with Sister Roma before. It's interesting to me on this big dust-up that took place at the Dodgers Pride Night of going, there's protests from religious evangelicals to withdraw the invitation of recognition of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and they do that. And then they come back and apologize and say, oh, wait, we'll have the sisters come back, and they do that. And then they create a faith-based night at the Dodgers. It's like, first off, Dodgers, ooh, boy, did you have a bad month. And then second, I think it's great that the state of California in the state assembly makes the gesture to make sure that Roma is recognized. We're not going to get into the evangelical arguments that caused all of this. They are not a religious order or organization. They're a charity organization. And for all of the people that argue, by the way, Fox News, 2.5 hours on the story of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, but the Catholic Church in Michigan that was proved to have harmed 2,000 children, 37 seconds on Fox News. In comparison,
Typical.
If you haven't watched Comedy Central or Saturday Night Live or read The Onion, that's what the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are. They are a comedic poke of tongue-in-cheek, not a literal implementation of nuns from the Vatican. Gosh, guys, read.
I mean, look, these are so. This is at this point. This is so typical of current Republican moves. They either want to, if they are the majority, they want to steamroll over they steamroll over everything to get their agenda. But if they are not the majority, such as right now the state assembly in Oregon, the Republicans basically left the legislative chamber so that they cannot have quorum to pass bills. And in California, I don't like that person, so let's just pick up our ball and go home and go to the back lounge. Like, that's childish.
I was going to say the biggest threat that we're not saying here, you allude to it, but let's just say it. This is another Republican fascist attack on free speech, because they're saying nuns should be above reproach, and nuns, nothing should be above reproach. And if they're attacking this, it's only, they're in a huge minority in California. If this came up in Florida, there's a chance legislation against the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence could actually pass.
We
do have a chapter here in South Florida.
Yeah. And so let's go back to that. There's two things that we can talk about this situation. A, the work that the sisters do. The sisters were the first to go into the hospitals and take care of our folks who were suffering with AIDS. They were the first to do fundraisers for the AIDS folks. They were the first to go and hold people's hands. So when that gentleman tried to compare them to what quote unquote nuns do, they actually did the charitable work to make sure those people, A, didn't die alone, and that they were truly being seen. Secondly, they also help children, not only just our community, but they raise funds for teddy bears and for kids who are left alone. And then finally, you mentioned about the Republicans. Look at what they did to Zoe Seffer. Look what they did to those two gentlemen, Justin Pierce and Justin Jones. When you don't agree with them, they then take their toys and leave. And think about what Marjorie Taylor did. She booed. But when we booed her 2 weeks ago, when folks, not we, because I wasn't there, I would have loved to have been there.
Please tell me she shed a tear.
Oh my gosh, she complained about the quorum, but ma'am, follow your own advice. Yeah. Start with you. And I wonder, is she one of those folks who say, don't do as I do, do as I say to her children? Yeah. Imagine that.
Imagine.
Well, next, let's queer up gay culture. From drag race queens to Barbie stars, WeHo Pride was star-studded affair.
Concerts will continue throughout the weekend on 2 additional stages. Grace Jones is headlining on Saturday. Carly Rae Jepsen will close out Sunday. The weekend will also feature free events such as the annual street fair stretching from La Cienega to Doheny, community performance stages, the Women's Freedom Festival, and of course, a dazzling pride parade.
And our parade icons include RuPaul's Drag Race.
On Sunday, West Hollywood held its annual Pride Parade, and it was a star-studded affair. WeHo Pride was full of music, dancing, colorful floats, festive marching contingents, and creative flair. The WeHo Pride Parade was free and open to the public, embracing LGBTQ+ representation and inclusion. The WeHo Pride Parade stepped off at 12 p.m. RuPaul's Drag Race is being celebrated as this year's drag icon and joined the WeHo Pride Parade on a float accompanied by a number of fan favorites from RuPaul's Drag Race franchise. Longtime host and judge Michelle Visage received the Drag Icon Award on behalf of the franchise. Leif Ashley received a Breakthrough Icon Award, who launched his career with a campaign for Barney's New York in February 2014. Jessica Betts was honored with the title of Trailblazer Icon for blazing their own trail in Hollywood. Melissa McCarthy has been named WeHo Pride's 2023 Ally Icon and is being recognized for her outspoken allyship and celebration of the LGBTQ+ community. Other celebrities also marked their presence, including Real Housewives of Beverly Hills stars Garcelle Beauvais and Sutton Strack. Selling Sunset alum Christine Quinn came to celebrate too. However, two of the most notable attendees were Barbie co-stars Alexandra Shipp and Scott Evans, who adorned a perfectly electric pink float for the film. Well, that's cute. And notice that it's open to the public. Drag queens can do anything they want, and no one is trying to censor them. Suddenly, why do I want to move to California?
WeHo Pride is such a fun
we will
event.
have fun.
Like a lot of fun.
It is insane. Like WeHo is just fun at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
But I've been to WeHo Pride before. It is just so much fun.
It's really cool to see the amount of support that they get from not just the community, but also from mainstream media and the celebrities who come out and support, because it really does, and I hate to say validate the event, but it leverages that type of headline to show that how many people come out to actually support the Pride events.
I love that about the validation, because one of the things that I saw, we showed a picture of Niecy Nash and her wife. The honorees and those who had seats at the table or seats in the cars leading the parade are so vastly different, but so instrumental parts of our community. Now, often do you see lesbians get a front seat, but then black lesbian, black love, just love in general, and many facets of it is amazing to me. And that was one of the things that I took away from this story. And so WeHo Pride, invite, it's happening out, folks. Invite all of us. We'll be there. We'll be in the car.
It's interesting to me that it's the argument about June Pride Month and specific events like this all over the country. You're watching the reason why there's so much hate. Proud Boys don't have this kind of embracement, and they wish they did. One of the reasons why they're involved in school board meetings and other things other than the kind of hateful protesting that they did, for example, like at the Capitol on January 6th, is they're trying to rebrand themselves into a more family-friendly environment. So we will go to school boards and protest, or we'll go to libraries and drag queen story hours, because the public will think better of us because we're pulling out our AR-15s at drag queen story hours. As opposed to the capital of the United States. It doesn't work. It won't work. And when you watch events like WeHo Pride, West Hollywood Pride, and Stonewall Pride, and all of the other events that we are going to see all over the nation this month, and really throughout the year, it's why they're jealous as hell of the LGBTQ community. Because over the last 50 years, we have made gigantic progress and continue to make progress, and they hate us every step of the way because they're jealous as hell.
Yeah.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, or like that little guy over my shoulder right there? That's Al. If you're not watching, he's coming to your home and staring in your window. Watch us.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. This is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, happening on television network and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Elimination, Angst, John Hayden, Kal Gajraj, and Dr. Barbie Huen. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.